guys. This is Thomas. I'm here with Mike. We're the first, the last in Nerdom. And hey, there's certain websites that say, or not websites, but channels where they want like 1,000 views or subscribers. They're looking for like enormous size subscribers and whatnot. And right now we're at 27. I'm only asking for 42. If you know the special meaning behind the number 42, give us a post and we'll give you a certain reward. Now, Mike, we're good cop, bad cop. Mike's a little bit of bad cop. I think he said something about he wanted 69 uh ones. I don't know what that's about, but hey, Mike,
Nice.
what's going on with you?
And I'll say the infamous, anytime you hear 69, you're supposed to say, nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
um
I'm doing, I could be better. I've got a little allergy thing, sick thing going on, whatever. Runny nose, so it's a little bit of snot and sneezy and all that crap. But so if I sound nasally, that's why. But in any
mhm,
case, and also if you see my camera go off, you'll probably use your imagination. But aside from that, wonderful
mhm,
introduction, Thomas.
mhm.
I am doing good. I echo that. We would love to drive those numbers up. We would love to hit 1,000, but that is a long-term goal, and that's sometime around like when NASA tries to go for Mars. So sometime in the mid 2020s. I'm kidding, but all joking
Right.
aside, but for real, we would love if you could comment on that and tell us what that significance is.
Mhm.
We'd love it
Yep.
either way. You like what we do,
Yep.
you don't like what we do. Hey, I'll take a hate watch. I'll
Yeah.
take a
Yeah.
we like to watch too.
Yeah. And if you watch our grab bag, we have our scorn from Gorn that we do every once in a while. We're implementing the like from Captain Pike, I believe. So yeah, if you tell us what the significance of 42 is, you'll get a like from Pike. Now I know we've rambled a little bit, but we're talking about the X-Men today. X-Men, which is asterisk. We're talking about the movie X-Men and the movie Men, if you know what I mean, right? Men, right? but
Yep. It's it,
uh,
it's one of the last things that Disney Marvel hasn't trotted out and made a movie about yet. But that
yeah,
we'll talk about that later in our grab bag, I'm sure.
yeah. And this is if you haven't noticed, it's October. Wake up, people. It's October and it's horror. We got a couple horror movies with us. We're hoping to populate the whole October with some of my and Mike's horror
Yep,
selections for this
absolutely.
month. And we hopefully we don't tank our whole channel with it, but but horror seems to do pretty well for our channel, so not a bad thing. I hope not. But yeah, X, and then I didn't realize this, but this is a trilogy. The prequel just came out not much, I think a couple of weeks ago, and then I think they're getting ready to film the third movie in the series. Um
I I'm down. I was surprisingly hooked on this. And I'm not a horror guy, but having over the last year or so, the last 10 months or whatever, while we've been doing this, I have found a new appreciation for these things, especially when you go back to the 60s, to all the way up to the 90s and to now. I always kind of thought and was turned off by horror genre in general, like from the standard, like growing up as a kid. And there's nothing wrong with this. Don't get me wrong. Like I enjoy a good
mhm,
Freddy Krueger, Jason movie, whatever, but that is not. That is not what. That's like a slasher. I don't know what. I'm not going to try to attempt to do it, but the horror that you talk about is like kind of like you just don't know. Again, this is I use this as my frame of reference. Like where if you see this thing and it's just
mhm,
so it stains into your mind and you don't
Mhm,
quite know how you feel about it. Those are the
mhm,
best kind of movies in general, not
mhm.
just horror related, but also kind of the psychological thrillers, like where you just leaves you in a cold sweat or something, like that. Just you don't quite know if you're up or down or whatever. I mean, that's just the best.
Mhm.
And both of these movies that we are going to get into here hit that button, but on far different levels. Um,
Yeah, yeah. The the tentative title, which if you've clicked on it, you already know what our title is. I was leaning towards X-Men two aspects horror because there's two different aspects here. There's the literal in your face horror of X, and then there's the much more cerebral mind meld that is men. But yeah, X is your straight ahead sort of in your face horror. It's a love letter to the old 70s horror movies.
mhm. It is.
It's basically it's set in 1979, and it's about a group of individuals that decide they're going to film a porno movie sort of
Right.
uh at a farm under the nose of this couple that owns the farm. They didn't actually tell them exactly what they were going to be up to in the filming of this endeavor. But yeah, so it's this group goes in, and they they run upon something that they weren't expecting.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, and so yeah, they get upon there, and they start filming. They meet the older gentleman that owns the farm, and one of the things that I thought that I didn't realize until when I was watching the behind the scenes stuff, because it looks like it takes place in somewhere in Texas or something. It's actually filmed in New Zealand.
Is it really? That's
Yeah,
crazy. I
yeah.
thought it kind of gave me vibes of the last horror movie that I remember seeing like a long, long time ago. It was I can't remember, but it was Jessica Biel was in it, I think. And it was Chainsaw, I think it was a remake. Terrible, well, not terrible, but it was a remake of Chainsaw Massacre or something like that. But yeah, just kind of that the van, the farm,
Hmm.
the wide open kind of 70s type shots.
Hmm.
Aside from that, yeah, it's very it's I that's crazy. I did not know that. Yeah, like you were saying, it's filmed adult film in rural Texas under the nose without the knowledge of the older couple. And
Hmm.
they become it's a very from the start, it's like a descent into depraved selfishness. And it kind of
Yeah.
goes that kind of that's just kind of a recursive thing that keeps going on until we're left. Well, of course, a horror movie, so there's only so many folks that walk out alive. But
Hmm.
until you get to that point, it's very much, uh, boy.
Well, and the it lovingly now I'm not familiar with uh skin movies from the 70s. I wasn't
Same.
watching any of them back then. But evidently it's a tribute to those, as well as a tribute to movies like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre and
Hmm.
whatnot. And one of the tropes of a slasher or horror movie back in the day was that the only person that actually survives the whole event is the virgin, which in this movie there is none. So there's not a
Nope.
virgin. So yeah, that kind of throws it on its head and
Right.
kind of
Right.
leaves everybody up for grabs as far as who actually survives. And the thing I didn't realize when I picked the two movies was that there would be a strong female element to both movies. Like the women of this movie are more or less the main characters of it. A lot of the men they kind of either get killed or kind of disappear along the wayside as the women hash it out as far as what goes on in the movie.
Woke. Hilarious.
Uh,
So, like that's the kind of the joke, I guess, for lack of a better term in today's society. Is it woke? No.
No, no. Yeah, it's very much far from woke.
No, absolutely. It's not. It
Yeah.
is not even close. But all joking aside,
Hmm.
I don't want to
Yeah.
ruin this. This is what
Yeah.
if you're looking for good media, and I'm going to disagree with the rating here. I thought it was a good solid 7, if not
Hmm.
7.5, in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
It's way better than a 6.5.
Hmm.
6.5 and +1. Or point one.
Um. Yeah. And I know, like, you're not familiar too much with horror movies. I don't look at ratings for
Yeah.
horror movies, basically because horror movies get rated lower. Uh, the majority. It doesn't matter
Uh,
what it is, no matter
gotcha.
how much quality the horror movie is. It doesn't get rated highly.
Right.
For whatever reason, either yeah, there's like different factions in horror, and if someone doesn't see something in it, they're going to write it either lower or higher, depending on their prejudices. But yeah, I don't usually I usually go towards people that actually review it and say whether or not they like it or not. If I'm kind of curious as far as what I want to watch, and if I'm not
Yeah.
sure if I want to watch it, I go for the reviews as far as before I go for the ratings. So that's out there out in the audience.
Fair.
If you're
Yeah.
kind of wanting to get into horror, kind of watch stuff and get a sense of what you like, and then the reviewers that you like, they have similar taste, kind of go off of them, because yeah, the number ratings is totally off the charts. So like with horror, as yeah, in
Yeah.
relations to that.
I I am definitely becoming an A24 fan, for sure.
Hmm.
Regardless.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
I'm kind of getting to the like equating that with like something that I know is going to be good or a known thing. I'm sure
Yeah,
that's
that,
not always true, but from
yeah.
what I've seen, that is pretty much on the head.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and that writer director Ty West, he seems to be one of the up and coming writer directors. He's I've watched a few of his things, and yeah, for the most part, he hasn't disappointed yet, so that's that's always a good sign. I watched that House of the Devil
mm,
movie, and I might have seen one or two more of his things. But yeah, he's but yeah, I definitely want to complete his X trilogy, whatever
mhm,
whatever he calls that.
right.
And then also there's a surprising amount of special effects as far as makeup involved in this movie. Wedo Workshop, which worked on the Lord of the Ring trilogy, worked on this movie as well, since it's in New Zealand. The person that actually portrayed Maxine Goth actually also portrays the old lady in this movie.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, and then the prequel Pearl is the story of the old lady years before. So
Okay. All right. All
yeah,
right. That
yeah,
makes sense. That makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, without any spoilers. But yeah, yeah, this movie is definitely a slasher movie, but it's got a lot of surprises to it. It's not your by the numbers slasher movie. You definitely get to know the characters, and they're not cardboard characters. There's a bit of humor to it. There's a bit of horror to it. But yeah, there's an interesting mix. But how everything plays out in a new enough way to where it's not like, oh yeah, okay, this is the big surprise element. This is the big okay, this person gets killed, this person gets killed. It's not like you're checking off the boxes. It actually engages you in the story to the point where it's not, you're um traditional slasher movie where it's like, okay, you're actually engaged in. It's like, okay, what's going on? What's going on with these characters? What the hell's going on with this old couple?
Right. You kind of as their interactions kind of come and go, you kind of understand a little bit more about like what's going on, and it is that there are. It's funny you say humor. I think about the one scene where and I won't spoil it too much, but just in generality, like where Pearl has a shotgun, and it kind of she fires it, and it puts her in a certain kind of state for like it sets up for the very final thing. But like that was hilarious.
Yeah.
And she's just she's really mad. Like she's just going on and on and on like about her situation. It's like I don't know what to tell you. You're like 90.
Definitely.
Sorry.
Yeah. And there's a surprisingly amount of a lot of music in this movie, and it's all well used. There's a really nice scene where there's a death involved against the song "Don't Fear the Reaper," which which is really it was really well done, and I liked how they used the song within that scene.
They did have pretty good music, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
this was a surprisingly good. Like I didn't go in with anything, but watching it, it was I know I understand like why folks like this kind of horror movie, I guess, like a slasher, but it was so much more than just that. It wasn't just like dumb horror movie
yeah.
things again. Again, I'm used to like a normie level kind of understanding, but as I get to understand horror and the different layers, it was really entertaining. It was a lot more entertaining than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
For sure. Like it
Yeah.
blew my mind a little bit, actually.
Yeah. It's sort of like one of the things a lot of people will say, well, I'm not really into horror because they've seen a bad horror movie.
Right.
There's the equivalent is the romantic comedy. I'm sure there's like really great romantic comedies out there that people have seen and recommended, but for the most part, there's a lot of bad ones out there.
A lot more
So
bad than
yeah,
good.
yeah, exactly. So it's sort of without someone that knows what they're recommending, you kind of have to kind of walk across a minefield of bad stuff to get to the good stuff. And yeah, and like I said, you can't always depend on ratings and whatnot as far as what's good or not, because the what some people think is a good horror movie or a good romantic comedy kind of widely kind of varies. So yeah, it's one of those things that yeah, you kind of have to either have a guide or know where you're going as far as what's good out there.
I'd agree with that. Yeah, well, and we both know that ratings are or they are they're in the beholder of their corporate eye.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, who
Take
wants
from that what you
to
will, like whatever. And at the end of the day, really doesn't matter if they're true or not. It's merely just a suggestion. And I don't know like too many people that they just kind of like, unless they're normie and they just don't care what they watch or what they pop in next or whatever. Like I don't know anybody who lives their life by what does the critics say? Like I don't know anybody like that. It's a lot more a little bit more complicated than that, but kind of simple too.
yeah.
Most people don't have the time of day to go and like look up every little detail of what this are. Like that's I think that's a little bit more inside baseball than anything else. But this delivered for sure. I was pleasantly surprised. I, as like you, we will definitely be covering the trilogy for sure. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
such a nice treat to find this. in the sea of garbage that is out there. That's the best compliment that I can give in this day and age. Is like it is not like anything you'd expect. Especially if you're uninitiated, if you're more like coming from me, like I'm coming at it more from like a normie's point of view of like, okay, what's this movie about? You know, you watch it and it's like, oh shit.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, and it's it's sort of paired at the beginning of the movie. You're witnessing the aftermath. The police come upon this house where there's all this blood, all these bodies. Yeah, all these
gore.
Yeah, and then it also ends that way. And the sheriff, his last line is, "Had me rolling," and I loved it. And it sort of like put the final punch on the movie, and really, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, not spoil it for you, because yeah, you definitely want to watch that if you haven't. But yeah, it's there. I know we're saying how good it is, and it is really good, but you know, it's not any more than it is. It's not. It doesn't elevate the slasher movie to something beyond the slasher movie. But it's a really good example of what it is, and it pays tribute to what has gone before it, and it is. But it does. One of the things that a lot of movies now do is the member berries that we talk about. Is like, oh, remember this, remember that, where a lot of it's like the lack of imagination is replaced by just putting in stuff that people are familiar with, stuff that and that's not what this movie is. It doesn't put in a guy with a chainsaw running through cutting up people. Oh, I remember that guy.
Right.
But it gives you a whole new story, but it pays tribute to what has gone before, and it gives you the atmosphere of those previous movies and adding on it. And that's something a true creative person will do, as opposed to just throwing in a bunch of stuff to say, oh yeah, I remember this, remember that.
Right. Yeah. That and I know why it reminds me of a Quentin Tarantino flicks in the past, because I'm not saying that it has his taste or edge or anything like that. It's more about, he is like a 70s film fanatic, and he interweaves, that's what his playground is. Like he likes to do those like things, like, but the era and the time and the way that some of the things, like I'd say that he out Tarantino's, or he channels Tarantino at the very least a little bit. Feels like I gotta be careful when I say that, because this is not like a Quentin Tarantino film per se. It's just more, it just kind of reminds you of that a little bit. But
if you did,
I guess in the quality and in the era and how it just reminded me a lot of that. In a good way.
Yeah, if you took his double feature Grindhouse and put this movie on after it, it would flow just perfectly. And then that one scene where the first day of filming, and they're all sitting around in the cabin talking and relating to each other, I could see that. You could put that in a Tarantino movie, and it wouldn't be out of place, where they're all.
No, I dare say this is probably even better than one or two of those Grindhouse movies. Don't get me wrong. Don't jump down my thing. I'm just saying, quality wise, the quality wise, probably a step above one or two of those, just in my opinion. But then again, this is the most recent thing I've seen, so I might go back and rewatch and be like, you know what, I don't know what I was thinking, but in any case.
Right.
Yeah, but aside, all that point aside, I was like I said, I really enjoyed this, and the layer of intrigue is just interesting. The fact that it's a trilogy, it just is awesome. Like, it's kind of like it reminds me a little bit like when you discover that M. Night Shyamalan made a trilogy of a couple of his films. He made a couple trilogies actually. but it's kind of, I didn't know that. Then you kind of go back and rewatch, and it's like, oh, then you start to see things that are there that kind of lay the groundwork for it. And you had seen them years ago. You were no clue. It was it's a nice. That's cool. I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah,
Cool, cool.
I think that pretty much wraps it up for eggs.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was very good. And that Pearl is going to be coming out, like you said, and then the next one after that is whatever it is. But in any case, or actually, it might be out already. But anyway, that's cool.
Yeah. Pearl's out now.
Okay.
I think they filmed it at the same time as X.
Okay.
So I think Maxine comes out sometime in the future. But yeah,
Cool.
which Maxine, the name of it may be a little bit of a spoiler for X, but as far as who survives, but
Sure.
but yeah, I guess that it's either here or there because in the future, whoever is going to be looking at this trilogy, they'll be there for them. So, but yeah, Pearl, which is the older lady in X. You
Right.
get to hear about her past. So,
Indeed.
yeah, which after X, I'm very, very curious about.
I am too. I'm sure it has nothing to do with her hips being weak.
Yeah.
And with that, we try to keep it family friendly. I'll let that one go. But in
Yeah.
any case,
Yeah, and the one last thing about X is if there's a theme about the movie that you could kind of dig your teeth into a little bit, so to speak, is that the idea of age and maybe missing your opportunity or what you could do when you're young as opposed to when you're older, when you look back or think about what you could have done, maybe missed opportunities. There's a lot of there is some conversations in the movie about age and missing your opportunities, as well as the older couple and what they could have done, or what just the whole thing about age, and it's very much a element to the movie that is kind of interesting as well.
yeah, I think we'll be seeing a lot more from Ty West because
Mhm.
he's one to look out for damn sure.
Yeah.
And I like
Yeah.
you, I agree. I need to go back and watch his back catalog and see what's up because I know he knows what he's doing for sure.
Yeah.
And with that, we step into oh oh man,
Man. Man.
to
Man.
Ben.
Man, am I right? What's the deal with men?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what is the deal with men? Yeah, good God.
All right. Yeah, and like I told Mike before we started, we'll probably go into spoilers on it, but we'll let you know when we start heading into that
Yep,
territory.
you will.
To start with, we'll give our first impressions on it, and then just to just set up the stage, the writer director is Alex Garland, which Mike, I don't know how familiar you are with him, but I started with him back in his early days. Wrote the book The Island, which
Okay.
Danny Boyle based the movie off of, and wrote and direct the or not the island, the beach. That's the book. The book has a lot of significance to me personally, which I probably won't go to here,
Sure.
but yeah, and then that built up the relationship between him and Danny Boyle, and they went on to do together the movie 28 Days, which Alex Garland wrote and Danny directed. And then later
Perfect.
on, Alex wrote and directed Ex Machina in Annihilation, and also the TV series Devs. And then this is his latest movie, Men.
Yeah, 28 Days Later is one of the better zombie movies for sure. That kind of takes it and puts it in a very good place. But
Mhm.
The Beach. I did not read the novel, but I did watch the movie.
Uh-huh.
And it's its own thing. The movies, it's fine.
Yep.
I don't want to say it's like
Yeah.
the greatest ever. It's not, but it also doesn't suck either. I mean,
Yep.
some people might, but I don't really care. But
Yeah.
yeah, this
Oh, and
I'm
he also wrote Sunshine, which he did with Danny McBoyle, and he wrote Dread, the newest version of Dread that you've talked about.
oh yeah, God bless America. That I love that. That is one of my all-time favorite superhero, anti-hero movies or whatever. I wouldn't say superhero, I'd say anti-hero.
Mhm.
Dread isn't really like that. It's a different, it's one of those that's one of my favorite comic series too. that
Mhm.
I fell in love with in my when I discovered it in my 20s. Anyway,
Yeah.
digress. But going back to Men, great director for sure. He knows what he's doing as well. This one was a little bit more. It was like I'm still kind of processing it.
Yeah.
I did like it, and it hit in a different way than X. X kind of
Mm.
hit. X was a very good surprise for horror slasher, whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
And just the 70s vibe was awesome. It just had a great vibe. But Men was like those ones that I love also that are just like they take a trip into the psyche sphere,
Mhm.
as it were, and
Mhm.
it just kind of leaves you like turning around like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
boy, are there some. Oh man, yeah. This character goes on okay. So her ex-husband passes away, and her ex-husband, you kind of get the feeling that like, well, for one, he's ex, but you kind of get this understanding that like there's this emotional kind of baggage that is like left
Mhm.
behind. So she kind
Yeah.
of goes on her own little way to kind of seek, I guess,
Yeah.
some peace and tranquility. And I I don't know that she found it, but I think she found something. But
Yep.
it kind of like it spins you like a top, and then it from that
Mhm.
point forward, you just kind of go and
Yeah.
kind of understand like you're spending a lot of time from her point of view in a way,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and it goes from there. I'll let
Mhm.
you take it from there.
Yeah, her ex-husband may or may not have committed suicide, and it was a very turbulent relationship, from what you learn at the beginning of the movie. And yeah, so she goes to a nice country, English countryside to kind of get away from everything. But you can't get away from men, right?
Nope,
but
not her
uh,
anyway. Her anyway,
yeah,
for sure.
yeah, and you said that she might have not found peace. I think by the end of the movie, she has found peace, and we may get into that a little bit later.
Sure.
But
I
at
have I
what
have another view.
at what cost she got to it is my question as well. But yeah, I think we'll probably go into spoilers now. Uh, I
Sure.
I. I really enjoyed it, and I definitely I only recommend it if you like very um, kind of out there kind of movies that challenge that you have to actively work with the movie
You do.
to kind of dig out what the movie means to you.
Right.
If you're looking for something to watch passively to just kind of pass away a hour and a half of your time, just to kind of veg out, this is not the movie to do it with. But yeah, if you're looking for something challenging, uh, where it challenges your ideas about what's going on, and you have to kind of piece together sort of like a puzzle to try to figure out what's going out, because they give you the pieces but you really have to put it together yourself. To what extent you put it together is also up to you. But yeah, I definitely recommend it. I understand the the number rating for it, because I can understand why a lot of people do not understand it, so they rate it a little bit lower. And then I'll hand it over to you as far as your opinion before we get into the spoilers.
Yeah, I really think this one was about wanting closure and
Mhm.
thinking that you got it, but you didn't. And you just kind of like, you're just kind of like left with this, you know, everybody's kind of in their own prison, I guess, or a prisoner of their own making, so to
Mhm.
speak. And there are a couple things that I think that there are movies that have done justice to that theme pretty well, in my opinion, like the
Mhm.
Conde Monte Cristo,
Mhm.
like the novel, like that's one where he's obsessed by revenge, and I won't get into that one. But and whether it's a movie or the book, whatever, if it's a book, you should read the book. It's a very good classic. It's never going to go old. Just like Shakespeare. But anyway,
Mhm.
to me, like I kind of felt like there's some scenes in here where they become, I guess, the least apolitical way I can say it is that they're very recursive. But there's like a distinctive mark or wound that keeps appearing, that kind of like, once you kind of like, oh shoot, well, that keeps coming up a lot. And like all men,
Mhm.
and you're seeing that like all these men look the same, and
Mhm.
it's because it's kind of an allegory in my mind
Mhm.
to like these are the same abusive things that keep happening to this individual, or that they keep replaying over and over and over and over and over and over
Yeah.
again, until you kind of, and
Yeah.
I agree. And the best movies are the ones like where the audience, it kind of like leaves you to
Mhm.
figure out what you think
Mhm.
at the
Yeah.
end. And to me, it just kind of
Mhm.
like, it kind of centers on that.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, you know,
Yeah.
it's in my opinion, it's kind of like a hell of your own creation in your own mind, in her
Right.
mind, and it just
Yeah.
kind of keeps happening over and over and over again. And no, I do not
Yeah.
think that she found peace.
Mhm.
I think that she
Yeah.
thinks, maybe thought she did, but like I think another 10 minutes later, she would have been right back in that hell
Mhm.
in her mind.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think they're the men of the town, if we hadn't said yet, the guy actor in it, Rory, I forget his last name, but he plays all the roles in that English town. So, and they make him to look Rory Kinnear, which he does a great, amazing job
He's a great actor.
playing all the different characters. And I watched some of the interviews, and he talks about how his various personas, when he's the priest, everybody kind of treated him with a little bit of respect, whereas when he was the owner of the place that was more kind of jovial, they kind of
Right.
treated him like he was the life of the party. It was like, it was very interesting to him how people would treat him.
Yeah. And
But the
there is like a cost of interaction with these characters, with the
Mhm.
main character. There's a cost. There's always some kind of
Mhm.
friggin' cost that she has to pay, or that is paid upon her. Um,
Yeah.
that is just recurring over and over. Harper, excuse me,
Yeah,
the main character.
and I
Sorry.
think, yeah, and so her husband had either committed or accidentally killed himself at the beginning of the movie, and so she goes away from that situation to the countryside, and so
Mhm.
she meets the homeowner of this big estate that she's staying at, and then everybody that she meets, and everybody that she meets is male in that town, that English small town. And I think her mindset, she hadn't let go of his either suicide or accidental death, and so her mind was kind of hung up on everything that happened and her guilt for maybe what had happened. And I think she was looking, every time she was looking at a male person outside of her situation, she didn't want to see her husband, so but she kept seeing those same traits of the male
Abuse.
persona.
Right.
Yeah. So I think the representation of it being the same person acting out those various roles, she was seeing elements of a man in each of them. It's that was kind of sort of sort of the manifestation that every man was the same to her,
Right. Right.
in that situation.
Right. And there's nothing to say that we're not seeing it from her point of view.
Right,
Because
right.
we in fact we are. I mean, that's what the movie's
Yeah.
about. But
Yeah.
it just we're kind of seeing it from her perspective. But then, like, where it does break a here or there, where it does,
Mhm,
it's up to you, the
mhm.
audience, to decide what we're seeing, if what we're seeing is a trait or we're actually seeing the actual person in reality. But
Yeah.
and there's nothing to say that, and there's no definitiveness about her ex-husband. Um,
Mhm,
was she is she racked with guilt because
mhm.
she
Yeah.
was defensive in that and then caused that to happen, or was it from him by his
Yeah.
own hand? We don't know. But we're put in this wonderful field of not being sure of anything aside from like what we see going on, and this just horrible kind of just
Yeah.
walk down the path of like this horrible
Yep.
horrific
Yeah.
abuse that keeps happening over
Yeah.
and over, whether it's her
Mhm.
remembering something or it's reality. It doesn't stop,
Right.
for sure. It just kind
Right.
of, I wouldn't say builds up to a crescendo per se, but it definitely builds up to
Yeah.
some frightening spoiler territory.
Right.
Go now away before we jump into. I don't know if you want to reveal what the thing is, but there's this
Yeah.
male character. There's this supposed to be this implied creature. It's
Yeah.
kind of out in the
Mhm.
in the wilderness, so to speak.
Yeah,
That
there's
keeps kind of popping up here and there,
mhm.
but always pops up
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
terrorize this woman.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you could dig into with this movie. There's a
Right.
lot of religious elements to it as well.
Mm.
When she first lands upon the English cottage that she's staying at, she actually goes to the this apple tree and actually takes down an apple and eats it, which is
Yep, that's right. That's right.
kind of call back to Adam and Eve and
Right.
Eve committing the first sin, and it kind of gets you to examine the idea of women being the source, men seeing women as the source of sin. There's a lot of that interplayed with it, and that there's a very much a sense of whether or not there's a false narrative. You know, the where we're looking at everything through the woman's eyes, and how much of this is a false narrative to her. What she's seeing, is it really reality, or
Right.
is it something mixed up with her psyche? And the fact that everybody looks the same, that either means that and no one remarks upon this,
Right.
not any of the characters,
Yep.
even herself, remarks
Not one
upon the
peep.
fact that, and it's not disguised all that well. You immediately realize, okay, that guy looks like that guy. And then there's a pub scene where a lot of these characters are in this room together and they all look alike, so it's like, what the hell is there, like a
Yeah.
mass inbreeding going on,
Right. Yeah.
or what?
By the third time you see the same dude, you're kind of catching on of like, okay, what is something? What the hell's going on here?
Exactly. So yeah, there's that fine line of how much is this in her head as opposed to what's being forced upon her from outside forces. And when I was watching this movie, the writer I kept thinking of is and I know you're not familiar with him, is Ramsey Campbell. He's a British writer that does a really remarkable way of kind of like getting into the head of his characters and describing the environment in the way that that character sees the world. And it's often, since his characters are also like either kind of going mad or uh frightened or whatnot, everything is usually kind of skewed to a different perspective, to where when he describes things, it's really kind of out there.
Okay.
That kind of made me think of his writing, because the stuff that he writes is sort of what pretty well in that wheelhouse of this movie. So yeah, if you saw this movie and were really into it, that's maybe a writer that you kind of might want to look into. But yeah, this movie really, really definitely makes you think. And then and like you said, we're getting into spoiler territory, Tor, Tory here. There's the
Birth
Green
and
Man.
rebirth.
Yeah, yeah. There's the Green Man, which is uh, a character that's very much prominent in the European world. There he's everywhere. The guy with the leaves on his face. But yeah, in America, he's not quite as well known. But yeah, there's kind of a question. He goes back to ancient times, and he's kind of a symbol of rebirth, which is normally an element of womanhood. So yeah, that's kind of so in this movie, in its context, I've kind of it's one of those. It's kind of interesting because X is one of those movies that goes straight through you. You know exactly what you're getting.
Right.
You process it and you enjoy it and you go from it. Whereas Men is one of those movies where it hits you all at once, and then you spend the next day or two kind of processing it, and
Yeah.
even after a couple of days, you're still kind of processing it. But yeah, so so the
What the hell did I just watch?
yeah, exactly. Uh, and I one of the cool things is there's a lot of scenes of uh birth and rebirth in this movie.
And when
And
there is no way to put that other than like when you see it, you understand exactly what we're talking about. Like, and it is that is what you see literally.
yeah, and there's one scene early on where she's got to the cottage, and she decides to take a walk. So she takes a walk out into the wilderness, and she finds a tunnel, a long tunnel, and she walks into it, and then she starts to play with her voice and echoes through it, and it's a very joyful scene for her in that she's just kind of playing with her voice, and it's sort of like her character kind of regaining her voice, sort of regaining who she is. In that tunnel is almost like you're being in the womb again, sort of
Mm.
recreating yourself, trying to get reborn. And the what she would want to do, I think, as a character, is to get to the other side, to create her voice and to go through the other side.
Yeah.
But in that scene, she notices a mysterious male figure at the end of that tunnel, that blocks her rebirth and comes running towards her. So instead of finding her who she is and getting reborn, and maybe find her recovery, she's forced back into the womb and back into her trauma
Right.
to kind of re-deal with it. And I really enjoyed that scene, that whole symbolic kind of scene, and all that it meant. It was very, very creative. And then there's also a recurring theme of the I forget what that flower is, where it has the seeds that go off of it. Um, uh,
Dandelion.
yeah, dandelion.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
that plays a part into the if you
mhm,
watch all the way through. That's part of it. And I think actually it's correct me if I'm wrong, but like what toward the end of that, and it took me a minute to like glom onto that, but they like you start like where the seed kind of left, but like
mhm.
when the movie ends, it comes back together, right? Is
Yeah,
that what that
yep.
yeah, like so it's very
Mhm,
this is why I say like I don't think that she found peace and tranquility because of that,
mhm,
in my opinion. Like
mhm,
where it's just like how you just set up that scene there. It's basically like you cannot be reborn until you figure this other thing out. And this other thing
Mhm.
keeps coming back over and over and over and over again until you can move
Mhm.
past that in a way,
Yeah.
very simplistic way, but
Yeah.
that everybody can pick that up. But yeah,
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
man, it's
Yeah, it's easy. It would be easy to look at this movie as a woke movie and say, okay, there's all this toxic masculinity in it, and
mm,
this evil, the evil is the men, and she's fighting against it. But I think
not really.
there's a lot more there's a lot more layers to it,
Agree,
and
absolutely
and
agree. Yep.
and I think she's there's sort of like this balance in the universe. There's like she's in the church. There's an altar that on one side there's the green man with the leaf and everything on one side, and then there's like the I forget the name of it. I researched it. There's the I forget the name of it. The female opposite of it, which is the woman with her female parts quite exposed
Yeah.
on it. So there's sort of like this duality of the male and female, and when in your I think what I get from it is you need that sense of balance, this inner working between the two. If there's not that balance, and you see one as the enemy to whatever extent, there's not a balance, and you're going to have turmoil within yourself, um, fighting against that other element, and and she sees at this point she can't have a healthy relationship with the character. She sees them all as enemies, so she sees all men as men. They all look alike, and she only sees all of the negative aspects of them in the movie. All of the male characters, especially in the English cottage, um is
Oh,
are all have
one
evil
second.
or dark elements. Even the child character is very much
One second.
evil character. Sure. Even to start with, when she first gets to the cottage, and the guy's kind of showing her around, even though he's the most likable character in the as far as the male characters. He's the most likable of the male characters, and she's kind of showing her around. He does kind of exhibit sort of microaggressions against her. He's the one that's like, oh, I'll get all your bags and stuff, and he refuses any of her help for that. And when she goes out to pick the apple from the tree, he spies her doing that outside the window, and he remarks upon that as something bad. Then he plays it off as kind of a joke. It one of the things I noticed in it, in England, when you steal an apple from the tree, it's called scrumping.
Oh, I didn't know
And
that.
yeah, and I in one of our grab bag, I recommended the fuckface podcast, the F blank podcast, and one of the things that the British guy Gavin on that podcast introduced to us was the idea of scrumping, and he was kind of shocked that no one knew what that meant. So for a limited time on the Rooster Teeth website, they sold no scrumping signs, kind of promoting that. So when when the character in the movie said, "Oh, you're scrumping," I knew exactly what that meant.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
But yeah, even that character sort of had sort of a kind of an aggression towards her, in that he tried to be the knight in shining armor. He would be overly exertive as far as his like when they were in the pub, he wouldn't let her pay for a drink. He would forcefully make sure that he paid for it, and then they uh and even the green man, or the homeless man that was naked, that that was following her around, uh he we never really know his intentions. It always portrayed in the movie through her eyes as kind of a dark perspective, but yeah, yeah, we never really know who that character is. Is
It's
he real? How real is he? And
it's
how much?
yeah, it's almost like he's always on the periphery, right?
Mhm.
And then when you kind of get up close, you get kicked back 100 yards,
Yeah.
and it happens over and over. And so it's very much, well, her. What does that mean? What does that represent? But it
Mhm.
definitely is plays a part of like this internal part isn't going to go away,
Mhm.
and it's going to keep coming back,
Yeah.
all the way through. I think it's kind of a, in a way, it's a visual representation of whatever the hell she's going through, and
Yeah.
how it can kind of spawn itself. So let's put that way, for lack of a better way.
Yeah. Yeah, and at one point again, she goes to church, maybe looking for a little bit of solace, maybe, and she ends up remembering more of the incident with her husband, and she kind of screams, and she goes out of the church, and she meets a young boy with the face of male character, which is very kind of disturbing, seeing this adult man's face on this child, and he wants her to play hide and seek. Another character wanting something from this woman,
Always.
and then when she rejects him, he gets very angry and calls her the B word.
Right.
And then as a source of comfort, this priest shows up, and you think, okay, well, this priest is gonna be nice to her, and he is to some extent. But then yeah, he starts making some awkward advances towards her by putting his hands on her knee, and
Yep.
then through his words, blames her for the death of her husband, for not allowing him a chance to apologize before he commits suicide, or falls accidentally to his death. And so yeah, so even the priest is betrays her trust in this. And and one of the interesting things, I think, we're kind of dancing around the end in that the she it comes to a head at a night where the where she thinks she's being attacked, whether she is or not, that's up to interpretation.
Right.
There's windows that's broken that could be explained by a bird coming through it. And then the guy that owns the place, the property, comes to her rescue and kind of looks around, but then disappears. And then the green man shows up, and also the priest, and some of the characters from the bar. But yeah, it all builds up to this scene where the green man starts to give birth, so to speak, to the various male characters, and that character gives birth to another character. And I watched some of the interpretations of this on YouTube from various people, and a lot of what they agree upon is that it's sort of the cycle of uh, male uh, male aggression being handed down from generation to generation,
Mm.
which makes sense to kind of a sense to it. But I kind of think it's
I don't.
more
Yeah,
it's
I
more
don't buy that one, but I hear you.
right. Yeah, I don't quite buy it. I think it's more or less each of them kind of getting back to her husband, which in the end, her husband comes out of it at the end. And each of the in she does attack the various characters, and whatever wounds that happen to one character happens to the other. So it's again adds to the idea of she sees everybody the same. And those wounds go back to the wounds that happened to her husband when he accidentally killed himself or committed suicide. On there's a fence. He falls out of the window either by choice or by accident, and
Or
his
push.
hand gets yeah or push. He gets his hand gets cut on the fence, which shows up in the cut in the characters
Stabs
going
the
forward.
guy
Yeah,
with the hand
exactly.
through the mailbox,
Mhm,
whatever. Yeah, yeah.
mhm. So I think that rebirth is sort of like giving birth to her original trauma, which was her husband, and he eventually comes out, and at the end, she finally asks, "Okay, what do you want from me?" And instead of being kind of reconciling or reaching out to her, he says, "I want to be loved." Again, it's
Right.
something he wants. Something he wants. Something he's not reaching out to her. It's all still very personal. And in during the whole thing, she has been contacting her friend or her sister or whatever,
Right.
some friend,
Yeah, I took it
and
as her sister, I think, but
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And so her sister shows up at the very end,
right.
and I see that since it's from her perspective, you know that something has happened. There
Oh,
has been
sure.
some trauma. Her car's been wrecked. There's blood everywhere.
Right.
Uh, the woman, the main character, she's on the steps covered in blood, and she's holding a flower and she's smiling. So I think she at that moment she has come to peace with what has happened to her husband. She realizes that whatever happened is on his end of things, and she is at peace with it. But there has been some trauma. So it has there been some one of the male characters in the village come to exert his control or
Right.
attack her, and she's taken there's been a point where they've pointed out that there's an axe at the fireplace that she could defend herself, that her sister pointed out to her. So has she attacked attacked whoever, either either that person was coming to her willingly or in the sense of helping her, and she's attacked them with all of her misconceptions as far as what her head's been playing with her. Has she killed somebody that didn't deserve it or did deserve it? Uh, there's there's the idea of when she was trying to let her sister know what she was, there was that message of "I know where you're at." So there's the idea of someone hasn't hacked her phone, so she's seeing things there that aren't there. Um, Again, with her phone and everything else that's going on, is she how much of it is her forcing upon the world, and how much of it is the world forcing upon her, and where does that lie? And it's kind of the big question is in what you get to play with as an audience member is what the hell happened.
Right.
And in I don't in one sense you think, okay, well, she's good, she's worked through her trauma, but what is the world that she is at currently? And has she killed
Right.
somebody that deserved it or didn't deserve it?
Right. Or
And
has she killed multiple people? Uh,
absolutely,
you know,
absolutely.
and these the only thing that we're for sure of is the fact that she had a husband, ex-husband, and he died in a tragic way.
Yep.
And this kind of like the wounds kind of symbolize to me that this keeps happening again and again because it's from her point of view, and it kind of like is like I don't know. I just had it a little bit ago, but and I'm not going to say anything that anybody else hasn't. But yeah, I don't think that it's. I think that the I reject the like the kind of the view of like, oh, these are just men and reborn or whatever. And it's just like, no, the genesis to me is that like these things keep happening, and it's her path to just this trauma. Like multiple traumas have been, whether they were self-inflicted, meaning that she murdered somebody, or whether she defended herself or whatever. We don't quite. I mean, maybe you could probably really lean into the tea leaves and figure it out, but
Yeah.
it would be fun to have a follow up if there were like another media like with this, like read the transcript or read it like a novel. But I don't think you're going to get too much out of it.
No,
From that point, but
actually, I looked into some of the interviews with the writer-director Alex Garland, and it's one. He said that it's one of those movies where he wanted to leave it open-ended. He
right.
wants he wants the viewer to be an active participant in it. That they get what their interpretation of the movie tells a lot about the person that watched it as opposed to what's actually in the movie.
Right.
It's more or less kind of what you see in the movie and how you interpret it kind
Right.
of relates
Up to
to
you.
who you are.
Right.
So in and you could dig as deep or as light as you want to it.
Yep.
Like like what some of the stuff that I was watching, some of the people that kind of dug in a little deeper. There's a scene where the priest, or is it the priest that's assaulting her in the bathroom? He quotes Yeats, a Yeats poem, and a lot of people were digging into the meaning of that poem and how it relates to the movie and whatnot. So there's a lot of different things you could you can dig into it. And also another person pointed out, like, when she was getting the apple from the tree, with the Adam and Eve kind of correlation, it wasn't an apple that Eve originally got. It was a pomegranate, most likely. And and in the bar scene, in the pub, the guy that owns the real estate, he's doing a crossword in the pub, and he goes, "Oh, it's pomegranate," and he
Huh.
puts it in. And so that's sort of like maybe a nod towards the fact that, oh yeah, it's not really an apple, it's a pomegranate.
Well,
so
that's the thing, like where you just find these Easter eggs or whatever the kids want to call them or
absolutely.
whatever. Like that's really cool.
Yeah, and I think that that's one of the cool things when you have a writer that's written novels, that also writes and directs movies. uh, there's a lot of layers to the story
Oh yeah.
to kind of dig into, and this is definitely a movie that you can really dig into and find various layers to it. Yeah, it's one of those movies where you almost want to kind of break it down from scene to scene, and
Right.
you could probably have an interesting podcast,
You probably
probably
do 3 hours
several hours. Yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
exactly. Yeah, exactly, which we can't do in our setup currently. But yeah,
Right.
it's one of those that yeah, it's I when I going into the movie, I didn't know much about it, which is kind of what I wanted to
Same.
do, because
Same here.
his movies are those that have so much to them that is better to go in kind of blind without knowing exactly what's going on, so you get the immersive experience of the whole thing.
Right. Yeah. No. I again, this is like this is really awesome to run into these two. Thanks to you,
uh,
I would say. And hey, if the audience, if you guys want to see us, I don't know about 3 hours. I'm not going to set into that. But if you want to see us break down, maybe I don't know, the top 5 scenes that we like each or whatever, something like that, something more
yeah.
manageable. If you want to see that, let us know, and we might just
Mhm.
entertain it. But we don't
Yeah,
know unless you say it. But
right.
this is a great movie to do that with
Mhm.
anyway, regardless. which might it might warrant a follow-up, maybe of some kind, if we have another hooker angle that we want to cover. But yeah, this was masterfully done. Like, you can definitely tell, like, he's a writer, and he not just a writer, but a good writer for sure. And that's true for his writing credits. Like, they just go back, and of course you mentioned at the top, when we started covering this, about him writing the novel The Beach, and all that. But yeah, this, you can't go wrong with this. This is a little bit more slow burn. And I would say, like, I've heard the term slow burn tossed around a lot lately, covering different media, and this is the good kind. This is the kind, like, where if you wanted a slow burn from something that wasn't giving you, or was going too slow or whatever, this is going to give you satisfaction, for sure. Whether you will like that at the end of this is another matter, but that's for in the immortal words of LeVar Burton, you don't have to take my word for it.
Yeah, it's one of those movies that, you said slow burn, and a lot of people mix that up with boring, which this movie definitely isn't. There's there it kind of at times rivals the gore of X. It builds up, and it does have, there's a scene where she stabs a guy in the arm, and that hand draws through that blade, and that's as much gore as anything that's in X.
Right. Oh yeah, and then it just builds from there. Very macabre, would be how I describe it. Like, for sure, indeed. Yeah, I'm not too much more sure I can say too much more to do it justice, but go see this one. And go, and if you're not in the mood for, like, some kind of trippy out there, whatever, don't know how you feel about it, then watch X. Either one of these, you'll be satisfied, for sure. And yeah, I would absolutely agree with you. These ratings are garbage, for sure, in my opinion, my personal opinion, and taste for movies. But this is why I wish Siskel and Ebert were still alive, because they still gave pretty good down the road, reviews, for the most part. But anyway,
Although Siskel and Ebert, they notoriously didn't understand horror movies, so they still wouldn't have probably gave them good reviews either.
Yeah, I think they were definitely more in the realm of the pop culture than anything seriously in depth. Like, outside of, like, when they would review a classic movie or something, like from Days Gone By or whatever. But anyway, I digress. But yeah, this you won't be, not for kids. Neither one of this is for kids. This is adult only, for sure.
Definitely.
Sure.
Yeah, because especially with men, they wouldn't understand the emotional weight behind any of it.
Yeah, I'd say this would be a great movie to watch, for, like, a upperclassmen in high school to debate and kind of draw from, if anything. And that, even then, it might not be whatever. But I'm talking about 17, 18-year-olds, not not middle school or elementary. That's ridiculous. But this is like what this kind of begs to be dissected.
Definitely. If you're in college, this is a great
college
movie.
For sure.
College. You're already questioning things, so this movie definitely lets you question things.
No senior in high school in American public school is gonna see something like this for sure, and that is what it is. But this Harper, and Jeffrey and James all put on a play, and it's a merry-go-round of coming or going. Not quite sure. It's kind of like the I can't think of the name of the it's the snake eating its tail a little bit, I think. What it reminded me of.
And both movies has great acting in both of them. I can't think of a bad job between the both of them. But definitely men, because there's not a whole lot you can hide behind in this. It's very actor driven, and Rory Kinnear playing all the men of the village. He does an amazing job. And I watched the Blu-ray of it, and it had a making of uh kind of documentary in it, and it didn't go into too much detail, but it talked about how Rory, he's not a method actor, so he doesn't like kind of get into the character before the scene. He, as soon as the camera runs, he's in the character. So the director was saying how odd it was to be talking to Rory as Rory, and as soon as the camera runs, he's whoever he is and does an amazing job. And then as soon as they stop filming, he's back to being Rory. And
Yeah,
he's like,
yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, he was just talking about how amazing it was that since he's not a method actor, that he could turn it on and off like Twitch.
Yeah, he's
And
great.
yeah,
Great talent. Yeah,
yeah,
I love these so much. I went out and I bought them myself on Amazon Prime because
oh yeah,
these are ones that I want,
mhm,
and that partially also too because A24 isn't it's only going to be around if people buy their stuff.
yeah, that's
And
true.
there's that saying like vote with your dollars, and there's certainly an alternative take I might have in different circles privately for certain media. But for the most part, if you like what you see, you should support it.
Mhm,
And I just had to go out and buy my own version copy of it for sure. Because
yeah, mhm,
this, I don't know any other way to say like to see these two movies. And they inspire that loyalty to I want to keep seeing more of this stuff like that.
mhm,
And A24, I know you have some background story on that, but that's just a
mhm,
quality shop.
yep,
Like definitely, probably not all of it is for me, but from what I have seen over the last several months, I'm a fan for
yeah,
sure. It's a kind of a
yeah,
shortcut to like you're gonna enjoy this almost
mhm,
um, for sure. But yeah, well, go watch this, man. Go watch X. They're both completely two different
mhm,
horror movies that are great. Good, very good, I would say,
yep,
for sure.
yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Anything else? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
if we had choreographed it, I could do X and then you could do men. But if you had a sign, you could hold it up. But
Right.
yeah, definitely see X-Men,
For sure. For
meaning
sure.
X comma men. Oh,
Right.
and as a nod, I have to give a nod to your movie sucks. That guy, Adam, he did a review of both X and Men
Oh,
and called
okay.
it X-Men. So I that's who I got the idea from
Okay.
for doing the two movies together. So just a
Well,
nod to him, and hats off. And but yeah. Oh, I had a great time. I love horror movies. I'm glad that you enjoyed them as well. And then for the rest of the month, we'll be picking various horror movies to
yep,
celebrate October. So
indeed.
keep watching. Like and subscribe. Again, get us up to 42 on our subscribers, and let us know what that number means to you in our comments, and get a like from us.
Indeed. Indeed. And with that, I've been Mike,
And I'm Thomas.
and we'll
And
see you in the future.
yeah, and men, right?
Man, right.
Yeah, right.
Let me tell you about my ex.
Girl, girl, I tell you.
Take care.
See it.